My intention today was to sort of imagine that everybody on this call and those watching it later, we're sitting at our first elder team meeting. Probably it would have been online before showing up on the weekend itself on Thursday night. So we would begin to build our own container and talk about what it is to hold the energy of elderhood on a weekend, and what they can expect of me as a ritual elder, what I was hoping for them. So I'm going to move out of they and them into we and us, and it makes it a little easier. Uh, so something about my own ritual elder path and about the ritual elder role. And again, I gave a quick summary before we recorded, but some of the early weekends were quite brutal. Some of the energies around leadership was still in that kind of totally physical. If you didn't get the point, we would sit on you until you passed out. So people left weekends sometimes with broken teeth, broken bones, and it was time. How do we moderate that? How do we moderate that without giving away the passion and power of the masculine, of the warrior? And through consultation with the leader body back as early as 1977 in Montreal, on the North American continent, it was decided that each weekend should have at least one, if not more, elders who would keep an eye on shadow, keep an eye on the leadership, be there psychologically to support staff men if they were triggered in different ways, and to create as safe a container as could be, and put the process in the historic initiatory arc where the elders gather and rescue, grab the young boys. I'm sure you remember from some of the context and some of the other stories about the little boys hearing the drums and the doors burst open and the elders, often in masks or painted faces or whatever, rush into the lodging and grab the boys at their adolescence and take them to a sacred site. And the mothers screaming, "No, don't take my son!" And then, of course, but they're all in on it, and the elders bring them to a sacred place where they can practice an initiation ritual. So so much has been secularized, so much has been made safer in our days of litigation. I myself was sued by a man who got hurt on a weekend. This is the reality of the world we're in. The lawyers up at MKP USA and the insurance companies have clearly made sure we stay within approved protocols and watch the violence and keep things under control. And so, again, the leaders take that primary responsibility, and the elders there to, the ritual elders there to support them and to lovingly call them when things start running off the rails. So I was initiated 2002, and I'd have to do the calculation. I guess I was in my late 50s. Yeah, around 55. So I was, and I was brought into the work by men who I respected who were already ritual elders. And so I was invited to do this work, and they already had their eye on me, as it were. And I've shared in my own story that I never thought I needed to do men's work because I was involved in all these spiritual groups and healing groups, and but it became very clear to me that there was a part of me that could never fully look at my shadow if there was a woman or women in the group, and that was partly because I was afraid I would scare them, and partly because I can always seduce them, and whether it was physical seduction or energetic seduction. My little boy needed that mommy love, and I too realized I needed to go through a community of brothers to help me grow. So as soon as I met the minimum requirements, I was actively mentored by some wonderful men, and started on this ritual elder path. So let me stop right here. And my intention is to talk a little bit about the arc of becoming a ritual elder, and then what we do on the weekend. But I can keep going without stopping, and I realize, let me take a moment. So, what's your expectation about what we're doing? We probably should, I want to give space for a check-in, or at least ask the question, what's present for you in your elderhood tonight in the circle, so that, and whether we want to stop the recording at that point as a personal reveal. That would make sense too, because even though this once a month we do this more in presentation, I love you guys, and I want to make sure that, again, if I was sitting with my elder team, the first thing we would ask is, is something up? Something needs to be cleared amongst us. So, I'm going to suggest, John, just stop the recording for a minute. And John. So thanks for that check-in. And what I heard is really a couple of themes. I mean, one is the question of, I don't feel like an elder, and what does it mean to be an elder if I'm not physically looking that way and feeling that way? And so that's an energetic spiritual discussion, which we can tap into. A question of, well, I haven't staffed yet, or I've just been a rookie and I don't really understand the ritual elder on the weekend. So here's a chance to answer that question. And I guess just really holding that energy. So, David, you're in the right place. Ritual elder conversation.
I am. I just had another MKP call, so I'm
welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, we turned off the recording and did a quick check-in, brief, but basically really around elder energy and what, unless there's some charge that you want to use, discharge here, which we can do, but assuming that just what's present. Yeah. So let me make something clear about the arc of this ritual elder. The ritual elder is a role on the weekend, and it is not a higher level elderhood that you struggle to attain, and then we give you a gold star. Part of the humility of that is to say, I'm stepping into a very specific role that has a lot of power, because we're granted opportunities to stop a process, for example, to just tap a leader on the shoulder and say, I need to talk to you about how this is going. It's a place of mutual respect, but it's a sacred download, as it were, for a certain amount of hours in one's life to hold that space. And that's really the narrow definition. So we can talk about, elder, declared elder, ritual elder as an arc. At the same time, if you ask a number of ritual elders, they would say, I am a ritual elder all the time. I'm a ritual elder in my community. I'm a ritual elder when I go to the grocery store. But we don't, MKP USA does not give you a certificate that says, just you're in your I group, or you're in at a community meeting, and because you've been a ritual elder and certified as a ritual elder on a weekend, you have a special role to play. If your community looks and says, we want some elder blessing, and we want our ritual elder who's going to show up on our weekend to really feel that he's an extension of our elder team and our elder community, of course, one does that. But that's, one of the things I'm going to talk about is about burden of leadership, and there's a burden of being a ritual elder on a weekend. And so you take that burden, you put that burden down the same way you honor the leaders for putting their burden down. So, so we'll talk about that arc. So any man over 50 in the community, we consider an elder, and ready to come to any elder event, be on elder mailing lists, see how it feels. It's not based on you have to be retired, so we have within the national elder community, we actually have two tracks. There's a young elder cohort, men 50 to 65 somewhere, who are still working, still have families. Some have in second marriages and younger children, physically busy all the time. And then we have sort of the second cohort of men that have been ready to sort of sit down a bit and really tap into their own mortality and the ancestors. So it's an arbitrary thing. At age 55, one can begin a mentored process towards being a ritual elder on an NWTA weekend, and that's a specific minimum requirement. There have been exceptions made. There are men in their young 50s who, through the course of life experience, exude an energy of elderhood, are at peace with their elderhood, and they can find a mentor who will talk to them and ask the National MKP Elder Chair to allow them to start the path earlier. We're in a dilemma in the sense that being a ritual elder is inherently a short-term experience on a weekend, because a weekend ritual elder, because by the time you get good at it, if you're like John, who initiated at age 70, and is hopefully going to join us on the ritual elder path as a ritual elder in training, knock on wood. By the time we get good at it, we're pretty much right in that transition of, I don't know if I really want to sleep in a bunk of guys snoring all night and just getting up at 5 in the morning. And I got to plan this ritual and be the last guy there to love everybody. And then I've got to listen, so there's this real tension between the physical requirements and our physically aging bodies. And so, during COVID, a lot of guys who were ritual elders stepped into emeritus status and said, all of this, I've been weakened. I'm conscious much more of my health. I'm feeling very vulnerable. I'm in the what do we call them? The dangerous communities, the ones we got to worry about. And maybe it's time to step off the path. So actually, nationally, we are short of ritual elders. And ritual elders play, again, in a very, very important role on the weekend. And that role, to stress it again, is to welcome on behalf of the community, in the idea that the elders have gotten together to initiate the younger men. And they, as elders, know they need active men who are facilitating that process, and the elders are holding the sacred container and the blessing for them. So the elders invite the leaders. The elders invite the leaders to take on the burden of leading that weekend. And the burden is a psychological burden, it's a physical burden, and it's a legal burden, as I found out. So there's a lot of responsibility. But from the arc of an initiation process, the weekend starts. The alignment of the energy on the weekend really starts with the elders and the ritual elder lighting a candle or calling in what, again, I'd say the directions, or calling in sacred space, calling in consciousness and awareness. Again, the intention is not to copy someone else's ritual, at the same time to hold the sacredness of it, not to make any man feel left out because they may not have a sacred tradition, but to create that special space and to hold the awareness that we are stepping into sacred space. And their rituals on that Thursday night that we do to bring that sacred space up and to welcome in the LKS lead man in the role that he's playing with the Axis Mundi. And again, whether that changes in the next set of protocols, we will find out. Holding that quality of the connection to the earth energy, that the water pourer has traditionally held, and the energy of doing things and of moving things along through our leader team. And what keeps that thing from spiraling out of control is a very conscious elder team. And so the ritual elder is the chair of that elder team, and holding that space. So I'll stop there and then talk about sort of the flow. But did that answer the question about how is a ritual elder different than an elder or declared elder, and those set of questions? I'll stop and see if there's anything you want me to touch on before I sort of just talk about the flow of the weekend. So this is ritual elders are very weekend specific, and yet at the same time, it's a blessing within the community that ritual elders are often called upon to do other things in the community, but that's not an official ritual elder role. Okay. Anybody questions? Okay.
Is this just an explanation of the ritual elder's role tonight?
Well, it's a explanation and a Q&A. So,
is that what you're doing? Is just explaining the role of the ritual elder?
Yes, in the same way that Jeff Tate really talked about the process of the water pour on the weekend. And of course, my intention is to recruit.
I think I'm going to bow out. And
that's fine, Steve.
Blessings. I'm going to check out with. Okay. Talk to you later.
All right. Yeah. So just following, Steve's question, is there anyone else who was confused about what we were doing tonight? So I don't want to go veer off. Okay. I didn't say put your questions in the chat box. It's there's six or seven of us. We can interrupt, and please feel free to interrupt me, because if you hear something that you want to follow up on. So what do we do? Well, our first responsibility really is that work on the weekend. I'm looking at my notes here. I probably should say something about the requirements. And I mentioned that the prerequisites for candidacy are that you're 55 years of age. And that has been, in certain extraordinary cases, changed, made a little earlier if a man has really holding this special energy and wants to work with a mentor at that time. Has demonstrated the ability to create and hold ritual space. So how do we judge that? Well, that's judged in the community or through your own practices, that you even understand what ritual space is, and that you're called to it in some way, and that you've staffed at least 4 NW2As and at least 1 as an elder, and that you're active in an I group, and that you've stood before your community and declared yourself as a declared elder. Those are mechanical steps. And again, I started this a little early saying that some of these might be softened a little bit, given the fact that if once we start having a lot of weekends, it is a requirement that there is a certified ritual elder on a weekend. And I've heard some communities say, oh, well, we'll just ask, we'll ask the oldest guy here to be our ritual elder. And, from a national perspective, that's a big no-no. The work of the ritual elder was a certified mentored role to really be responsible for the safety, the energetic safety, the psychic safety, the physical, spiritual safety of a weekend, and in a sense to protect the leaders. And Dave's here, as a member of the leader body. I mean, when you have a good ritual elder, the leaders feel safe, even if a ritual elder challenges you sometimes. But you know, it's an invisible protective shield, but you know, a good ritual elder will be available when a leader needs to talk to someone, needs to step out of the room, wants to validate something. And you know, we all succumb to projections, right? So what's the shadow of you know, the projection onto a leader? Either he's my father and I love him and he's God and I'll kiss his ass and anything he says I'll follow him off the cliff even when he's saying something stupid, because I want his approval so much. I'm talking about staff men on a weekend, right? You know, or he's my father and I hate his guts, and I'm just going to bring all my king killer energy out there and I'm going to bring that bastard down. So, you know, we have a line on the weekend that says, you know, I will call you on your shadow when we bring the leaders in for the weekend, and I have your back. And that has happened to me. You know, when it works really well, it's truly important. And there was a case in Florida where we literally had, you know, timing went off, things were going crazy, and an elder wound up screaming at Mariano, and Mariano wound up screaming back at him, and it was time to stop. It was time to stop and to disengage and reinitiate, take the leadership burden off, step out of our roles, clean it up, and come back in again. And that's, you know, that happens not often, but that there has to be someone who could do that. Otherwise, things can spin out of control. So, a lot of the ritual elder work is in relationship to the leaders. When it works well, they feel protected and honored, and also they welcome someone who can step back and look at what's going on. It's also a very good role. Often when a man is going to leave the weekend, you know, someone on the leader team interviews them. If there's time and space, the ritual elder will also be there for that man to let him know that there's a loving energy there. And often, well, I'll go through the sequence again. You know, a lot of you guys who've staffed weekends don't know what happens at the elder sensei station because you're busy doing something else. And that's like an inoculation, a vaccination for later distress on the part of new brothers coming through the weekend. And so it's really important that there's a connection there. So, Dave, did you know, it's a blessing to have you here, you know, and again, I was going to just run through from Thursday night to Sunday, but you want to say anything about, you know, your experience of really a good ritual elder or a not so good ritual elder as someone on, you know, has been a co-lead and leader team?
I've staffed with many great ones. To me, the worst ones were ones that were so scattered that they didn't come to the weekend organized. And so it just becomes a personality issue of understanding who you're hiring. But if you want to get a ritual elder, it's not just about creating space. There's so many things that need to be done that if you're not organized, if you're not somebody that has some type of organization or have support that does that organization, that's where I've seen more issue. I've seen plenty of incredible support when leader body people either had grief or had issues, and the elders held them to that. It's a path I'm interested in, but the problem is that in the leader body, the second you kind of go down that path, then you're off the other path like permanently. So so I've not gone down that path yet. I haven't felt like I'm completely. I'd love to be on both paths, and at the same time, that's not something that they. And there are men who are LKS leaders and full leaders and even ritual elders, but they got, I guess, their leader body before they got any of the other ones. So
yeah,
but
it's not common, but it's a big psychic shift. But I do appreciate what you're saying, because I also, at the beginning of my tenure, you know, I was in magician, right, and lover, and for many of us, Um, you know, and the leaders, oh, they're the warriors, they'll get things done, and they're the guys yelling and pushing, and you know, and all I got to do is kiss the babies, you know, and hold everybody, and then things fall apart. So I learned the hard way because I think I was one of those scattered people, and one of the ways to learn that is to have either a second ritual elder or someone who is on that elder team who's a ritual elder in training or willing to keep that spreadsheet. You know, I show up with an outline now. Boom, 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 boom. And so it is a balance because, again, a lot of you guys don't know the details, and I'm going to run through them if that's okay.
I'd also say that I still remember my weekend where Pat Noon was the ritual elder, and that conversation was like, and they call it an anchor, but that is so important because you're going through the challenges, and then all of a sudden you have kind of lover energy that kind of a little bit takes you back a little bit because you've just experienced something totally different.
Yeah.
So I just leave it at that, is that to me, that for a lot of men, that's an important grounding, anchoring that is part of the whole flow of the weekend.
Right. Well, jump in because it's cool to have someone on, you know, leader team who's committed to that track and sort of distinguishing it. So I've got my notes here, and so please speak up if I run through this. But when I had a ritual elder in training assisting me or someone stepping up, we go through a lot of detail at the same time, and it's great to have someone who can take turns role playing that. So we come on the site Thursday, and with the water pourer and the LKS community, we meet, we smudge and bless the site. And again, rituals change in different communities, but we want to walk the perimeter of the site, set a highest intention, and recognize that the ground we're standing on is going to be special. And again, I've seen guys just burn so much smudge, you know, everybody can't it takes days for it to get off. It's not about the chemicals, it's not about the act, it's about the intention. And we're there, and we have our first elder team meeting, and in that we'll talk about what we do with the elder team. So I've walked on the site, and I said, if we haven't gotten clear with the leaders, there are a couple of things that we want to talk about. How does the leaders feel about the elder sensei role, where it's going to be, whoever is sort of flowing that weekend, you know, that after the men leave the darkness of the after they've done contraband and gone through all of that banging and dislocation, disorientation, they visit the elder sensei, and sometimes it's one man, two men, rotating. We'll talk about that in a minute, before they then sit in darkness. And so talking to the leaders is just to confirm that the flow, who's ever been working on the setting up the welcome and the greeting, you know, the elder doesn't just go off and say, I want to do it over here in this corner, without really working out the flow. And of course, if it's cold and it's going to be indoors versus outdoors, that's got to be clarified. So we have our staff meeting, and we welcome the staff in. And for you guys who haven't staffed, there's usually a challenge question of some kind to just bring everybody into their awareness. And so the elders do that, and the ritual elder works with the elder team and the leaders to, if there's a theme for the weekend, how does that generate a challenge question? And so the men come into the circle, the staff men come into the circle, the MOS men come into the circle in silence. And the ritual elder, introduces himself to the community, asks for a blessing as elder on point. And if there's a clearing, hopefully not at that point with me, if there's a charge, if there's something going on, we get that cleaned up right away. And so the elders kind of representing, the ritual elders representing the elder community as a whole. We introduce the elder team. We ask that they stand. We ask that the other elders in the community give a blessing to that elder team, and that they're here to help hold the energy of the container. Just as we have a sacred objects table for the new men coming through, we have a sacred objects table for the staff, and the ritual elder creates that. And we want to be careful that we protect that, and that no paper cups and trash are put on that table, and that it is a sacred place. We light a candle or some symbolic representation of the beginning of the weekend, and we, at least until any changes, we call in the directions. And again, I'm speaking the way it's always been done in the past, open to changes. But we honor the qualities that we're bringing, the archetypes that we're bringing. These are not energies outside us. These are qualities inside of us that we welcome on the part of the staff. And we ground that energy, and we ask for a blessing from the ancestors. We honor the training director, the administration, all the guys who brought new brothers to the weekend, and their rituals for that. And we honor them, and we ask particularly the data guys and people who've been working really hard to at least begin to move out of the headspace into the sacred space, that they're ready to be part of a team that initiates men. We call in the leaders by name to the center of the circle. And I'm not going to go through, different ritual elders have different questions to ask, but the key thing is that we're asking if they're ready to wear the mantle of leadership for the weekend. And sometimes we physically put something on their neck. Sometimes we just lay our hands on them. Different communities have different traditions. But the key thing is that we ask their mission and their intent, and we want to let them know that we'll hold them to their mission and intent, and that the elder team will watch their back at the same time. If there's clearings with the leaders, and I talked earlier about projections, king killing and big, all kinds of things get stimulated, and the ritual elder makes sure that the men on the weekend can stand behind and follow the leadership of the elder team that we have brought together. And if they're ready, and we have some rituals around that, and when they're ready, we usually line up behind them or create a circle around them and hug them. I mean, again, there are different ways that we can do it. And we reach out and bless them. And we then, having created the role of the leader, we welcome in the water pourer, who does a ritual around the Axis Mundi and tobacco ritual. Again, that will be changing possibly, but there is a ritual that really honors the three legs of the weekend. So that's the Thursday night, and the three legs, again, the leader team, the ritual elder and the elder team, and the LKS Lodge men, and particularly the specific guy who's role-playing the water pourer. Questions about Thursday? Staff meetings. Guess from you guys who haven't staffed yet, that's what to expect. If you're on an elder team, we're going to need you. All right. So at that point, the three of us, the three roles have been established for the weekend. And at that point, we honor our own personal process, the things that we're doing, but we're always conscious at that point of having taken on a sacred role. And again, it's not religion, but it's a special honoring presence, deep presence, and the three together move the weekend forward. And so we, as ritual elder, at that point, we've each stepped into our specific role for the weekend. Yes, Michael, were you raising your hand, or did you just need a stretch? Okay, all right, cool. Friday, we have our elder meeting. We invite the leaders to come for blessing. We do a lot of the very thing that Dave was talking about. Go through the roles, who's going to do blessings. Talk about how to set up the King's Chair that we use during Saturday Guts process, and there's a ritual there which we'll talk about with stones and protecting that space. So again, it's not. Men already know the roles they've been assigned for that. If we have a blessings or centering exercises around the meals, they tend to be. I like to have them assigned as opposed to not knowing. And so the elder team has that. If we do call in the directions, which we've traditionally done on Thursday night, and then we do it again on Sunday morning at the morning gathering. Those men who are playing that role have already know it by our Friday staff meeting. So, and in fact, if they're doing it on Thursday night, we've already talked about that prior to even coming to the site. So the big job of the ritual elder on Friday night that isn't focused on the staff, that's focused on the men coming through, is to ask them 2 questions. Do you remember what they are?
I know one is, who do you serve?
Who do you serve, right? And what's your life mission? So we're planting the seed for the whole weekend, for the processes and the work that follows. Who do you serve? And at least when I'm ritual elder, and my mentor taught me that before we ask that question, John was, with me, take a breath, sit down, get grounded. We offer a sea of tranquility, a moment of tranquility in a very turbulent process that these men are experiencing on Friday. We've taken their name, we've challenged the stuff they brought. Oh my God, what is this? And then they see 2 older guys, or and I've seen guys wrapped in a blanket and out in the snow, or candles. Again, there's a little room to play, but it's like, wait a minute. And Dave said that there's the one energy, and bang, there's this other energy. And all of a sudden, they're in this deep lover space. It says, you're safe here, and I'll be here for you, and I'm with you, and that's critical. That's critical, and that's again what separates us from a cult as well. A lot of things like that. There is. We're not just trying to bang a man out, and just fill him with our stuff. Someone who sees their wholeness, and that they can call upon the elder or the ritual elder on the weekend. Particularly if a guy, and that's what I'm saying. Having planted that seed, come Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, before they do some of the processes that bring them a taste of beauty, where they're still in accountability and they're still being hit with a hard edge. That's often when a man will want to leave the weekend. And it's a reminder that I said I'd be here for you. Let's sit and talk. What's going on? Trust the process. There'll be many gifts. That we're here. That's a critical role. So it's very special in some ways. For me personally, those few minutes on Friday night, every time I do that, it brings me back to the place what I didn't have, to the father I didn't have, the grandfather I didn't have, that experience that somebody put their hand on my shoulder, if not literally or physically, and said, you'll be safe with us. So it's a very special It's a special moment. And I get as much out of it as the, the men coming through. So accountability, the leaders are and the accountability teams challenging all the new brothers, the new men coming through, they're not graduates yet, the men in the process, in the work. And we usually have the ritual elder and a couple of other elders sitting in the front silently, but then again, it's sort of saying, don't worry, we're here. You already saw me, a little while ago. I told you it's safe. Don't panic. We're holding the space for you. And so we're there. We support the staff when they do some of the more emotionally hard processes, arrows in, arrows out, little boy's deepest need. Often there's a staff man is triggered, and we're there to greet them, hug them, smudge them, wash them with water. A lot of little boy injuries get stimulated amongst the staff, and we really want to be there to make sure they're okay. And we have the king's chair is set up, and again, after men does their carpet work, we take them to sit in the king's chair, and an elder from the elder team, as you know, welcomes the men on their journey. There's some language that we use, is there. It says, I'll be here when you come back. You have all the tools you're going to need, and that man steps on the carpet and does their carpet work. And then when he comes off the carpet, we welcome them. I'm here. I said I'd be here. Here we are. And we lead that man to the de-rolling process, off the carpet, first time on the carpet as a teaching tool, later out off the carpet. And then he picks someone to escort him to the king's chair. That man sits in the king's chair to deprogram himself from all of that experience. And we say that this is the most vulnerable time for a man. And so we don't engage him in chat, and we don't try to do one more scoop of processing. And we assign an elder to be a very aggressive guardian of that space. And, man wants to talk. And if the guy who led him through often the man will pick the man who facilitated him. And there's all kinds of projections going on, and, very vulnerable place. And again, the elder team, with the blessing of the ritual elder, really keeps those king's chairs safe. And again, there's lots of tools that we use, and we give the man a gift, usually a stone that he can hold, and take that stone and hold it in your hand. Squeeze it as tight as you can until you have a physical memory of this moment. And then take that stone home with you, put it on your shelf, put it in a drawer. If you're doubting what this thing happened, pick up that stone again. So there's a real special moment there. And then the rest is, so they've had all of that experience, and then there's a role for us on Saturday night. The elders create the initiation ceremony. Again, there'll be changes, I'm sure, how that's done. And the elders welcome the men, and the elders present the men to the leaders or whoever at that. Different communities do it differently. Who's going to present the talisman or the gift, whatever form that's going to take in the future for that man as a symbol, a representation of what they experienced. The ritual elder has a role to play in handing that man off to those who will honor him. Often it's the leader, sometimes it's members of the community, the steward, each community decides that. And so that gets us through Saturday night. And Sunday morning circle is probably the most centered on the ritual elder, and there's a very specific protocols within, lots of room for adjustments. But this is the chance on Sunday morning to bring the man into the circle, talk about the directions or talk about some of the language we've used, to remind them of the context that they've heard, honor all of the men, talk about the power of a circle, that we're part of a larger circle, We step back and honor the men who brought them here. We honor the men who brought staff to their first weekend. We visualize the planet filled with circles of men sitting in integrity and mission. And if we know groups are having circles around the world at that time, we say you're not alone. There are men in Australia right now, or there are men in Hawaii, wherever it might be. We check that out. We bring that circle in tighter. We honor the men who are on their way to the weekend, the men that they'll bring, your sons and their sons, the men in the future. We call in the directions, at least we have in the past, and I'm assuming that we'll do some version of that, so they get a little taste of some of that ritual. And then after other processes, another beautiful thing we do on Sunday morning is to escort the men to the sweat, to the purification and renewal ceremony, even if it's not a lodge with sweating. There's this beautiful time of in silence, just walk outside and take in nature, be in the moment, be present to all that's happened. And we lead them as elders, often with a man in the front and a man in the back with a drum, a sacred walk, slowly, silently, like a walking meditation into that ceremony, whatever the lodge keepers have put together for the future that they'll be doing. And finally, after, we get a chance to bless a meal at the big feast. And what do we ask them as men leave the weekend? What do we say to them? Go in mission, go in service. And the tears fall, and the hugs happen, and part of our job at that point is to push them out. Keep moving. Keep moving. But that's the arc of that. And Dave's nodding because sometimes that goodbye process gets bogged down at that point. But it's very beautiful and very emotional. And so the new graduates have left the site, and we basically do that Thursday process in reverse. We do the Thursday process in reverse. So we release some of the energies we have, or the experiences. Again, I'm not sure how the Access Monday process will work going forward, but in the past, the tobacco or the things holding the blessings is disassembled and put out on the ground. The lodge keeper can step back into being himself. The leaders release their burden of leadership over there, and we bless them and thank them for the work that they've done. The ritual elder himself steps back, drops back into just a guy who showed up to do this role. There are a few other steps that we do, and we can complete that process, as they say, in reverse on Sunday. Let me look and see if I left something out. So we de-roll the leaders, the elder team, we release the directions, we bless the staff, of course, we bless the site, and we cover up the candle or whatever object we use to symbolize the beginning of the weekend, to say this weekend is complete. So that's the role. A lot of that, again, is behind the scenes, but it's a lot that actually goes on. And it is easy to let things slip. And I appreciate Dave saying that good ritual elder can hold both, or has a deputy and say, okay, today you're holding warrior do energy. You got the outline, the assignments, this, that. I'm going to be Mr. Spiritual, and tomorrow we'll switch roles. That's a negotiation. So ritual elder in training, declared elder to ritual elder, it's a special role, and with all of the current attention on redoing some of the processes on the weekend and cultural appropriation issues, multicultural awareness. I've been on the national ritual elder meetings and national. I've been on the national. I'm part of the National Elder Leadership Council, whatever. We have not been as challenged as the lodge keepers have been, for example, around cultural appropriation and working through some of those rituals and processes that were given to us through indigenous men, but it was 30 years ago, and the times are different. But I'm sure that there'll be changes for us as ritual elder regarding how we handle Sunday morning, for example, and I'm waiting to see how that will be. But I think ritual elders in the next year, A, as they say, there's a shortage of them, and B, will be really in demand in the sense of a lot of changes. And the guys who say, "Oh, I can do the weekend with my eyes closed," it's not going to be that simple. And so there will be a lot of resentment. Well, no, I don't want to hold that. There's a possibility of some buttons being pushed, and we want to hold that energy for the staff, the new brothers, the graduates, the men who are coming. It's all new. It's all mystery. But I think we're going to have, elders, whether you're coming on an elder team, working with me or another ritual elder. We used to have something called the elder porch. And when it first started, it was kind of, we don't know what to do with these old guys, and they'll smoke cigars and pop their suspenders. And that was an image that we really struggled to get away from. And it's been successful. But yet the idea of, maybe for the staff, we might need to start that again, at least over the next year or so, because there'll be guys who just want to talk, and we really don't want them splitting up our staff meetings, until they had a chance to be held and to let go of some of that fear that they might be bringing. Okay, questions, comments. Where do we go from here? I'm open. What did you like hearing? What I'm recruiting, hint, hint, the youngin, I said we can push that age 55 down a little bit. We do want you to have staffed. One of the things that I was tested on was, can I go through every single process on the weekend and know what it's about and be there, not so much to step in and run it, which was a mistake I made. And I got kicked in the butt by Rick Bronick, who was one of our early leaders, because the guys weren't prepared and blah, 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 blah. Oh, I'll do it. That's not my job. But how to hold that space safe and know the flow. And so that at any time on the weekend, even if the clock is off or whatever, we're conscious of it. And that goes back to Dave's point. It isn't just, I'm here to be safe, to make it safe, but I don't really have to pay attention to what's going on. You need to know the weekend. So the requirement about staffing at least 4 times, once at least on an elder team, if I'm mentoring a man, I want them on the elder team at least 2 or 3 times. The age part is secondary in some ways. It's what is your demeanor? What is your gravitas? And particularly some of the older guys, get in now, because in a few more years, even those you guys are going skiing and running around, and the bones are gonna say, I don't want to sleep in that bunk anymore. So we need you. We need you while we can. All right, I got about 15 minutes. Questions, comments?
Quick things. Did you see Bob Brummett's email today?
Yes, and I want to. We're going to send that invitation. This is totally coincidence, but on a national level, on our Elder Cafe on Saturday, the Elder Council, which includes, Alan Pabelzik and John Desgracias and some of these guys who were there at the creation of the Ritual Elder, will be talking a little bit more about the history and the arc of the path. And so it's another dip. and that's the subject of the cafe. And John and I talked about it before the meeting. We'll be sending that link out, but that's the National Elder Cafe. And so any questions that didn't get answered tonight or that you want to pose to the guys that mentored me, they'll be online on Saturday. So, thanks, Dave. John, I've been trying to, mentor you along the way. Anything that you thought I was going to talk about and left out, or that you want to add to the conversation?
No, well, I'll share my experience of being with you in the elder sensei room, and could feel like as the men walk in the door, it's like deer in the headlights, and then they look at the two of us, calm. We're sitting down. We invite them to sit down, and just seeing their energy shift so that they weren't on the defensive, and by creating that safe space for a moment, I'm with you. That was profound for me. A couple of the things that the men shared, they felt safe enough, quickly enough, which I'm sure helped set the tone for their entire experience. Having now staffed all of 3 times and been on the elder team twice, once with David Davies and once with you, I saw really good interactions between the ritual elder, the lodge keeper, and the leaders. But I've heard it's not always smooth. And like, I've heard it's not always smooth. If you are not welcomed as an equal member of the triad, how do you deal with that?
Well, I would admit that I think I staffed a Chicago weekend where they made it really clear that I wasn't. They actually asked someone else to be the ritual elder who was not an official ritual elder, but he was a buddy. I mean, the whole thing was really screwed up. And I sulked for the good, I sulked for a good half a day. Fuck you. You screw it up. And then finally, I woke up, right? I woke up to the deeper responsibility. I mentioned, where from the leader's point of view, I thought I was helping, but I wound up trying to run a process because no one was there to do it. And this was early, when I was still a ritual elder in training. And that's, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix it, which is not the same as keeping the place safe for the team to do it. Yeah, I would say that the hardest triggering experiences for me about being a ritual elder are something that goes back to my childhood. As in many cases, a ritual elder bunks with the leader team, conversations later at night, the flow. And in a couple of weekends, I kind of expected that, and I was really shocked. There I am with my little rollaway suitcase at the door of the leader cabin and being told, "Get out of here." And that triggered my memories of my stepmother not allowing me into the house. And I just went off and cried, and it had nothing to do with them. I mean, so, I had to be, that was my personal trigger around a childhood trauma, that was reenacted. And of course, the gift of that is to say, well, all of the staff men will be projecting onto the leaders just like I just did. It is a tension. When I'm at national ritual elder meetings, there's always a sub conversation around, they don't respect us enough. They, meaning the leader team. That's changed, and it's changed partly because the ritual elders have certified themselves and become more and more demanding of the role. But there are still some leaders who see us as an afterthought, someone who gets in the way. And particularly if the ritual elder sees something shadow and is actually challenging a leader when they're kind of puffed up, they don't like that. But that's their projection of someone doing that. So that's a dance, and that's a dance. I would just say that it's a powerful, when I mentor someone as a ritual elder in training, a lot of the piece has to do with how do you get the respect of the leaders without feeling that you're subservient to the leaders, you're equal to the leader, but they are judging you from a past history of their experience with some ritual elders, and also they're judged. Some are bringing in their own shadow, you know. That's if we can make it work, when it works well, the pieces fit together. But I will own, as they say, at least twice I remember literally being brought to tears. I mean, not in front of anybody, but some over something as stupid as where am I going to sleep tonight. And I'm past that, but that was my needy boy. I want to be with the grown-ups. I want to be with the grown-ups and have them like me. And I want to be with the children's funk, I was at least in my mid-60s probably when that happened. So if you got stuff, it comes up, it's okay. That's why that's the blessing of you got some, you may be mentoring somebody, but find someone on your team who can mentor you or be the rock for you if you start to wobble.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd
yeah,
say
David.
some ritual elders do have a need to be seen a bit. I mean, I think sometimes I see that a little bit in you, but some other ritual elders, some of them don't have that at all. But it all has to just be in balance. It all has to be, to serve the bigger picture. But what I've seen is when there's huge conflict, first of all, if a weekend is going great, very seldom is there any issues between the various leadership. So the second the weekend starts to go off the edge, fear comes up, and the leader body, a lot of men are no different than other men. What do you do when you're fearful? And so Mari usually shares that he has a tyrant that sometimes when he gets afraid, his tyrant comes on. So when his tyrant comes on, a ritual elder has to be able to take a very powerful leader who's turned into a tyrant and be able to engage with that. So yeah, it's really when things start to go bad that it's most important that the skills of the ritual elder being able to work with people and not be a people pleaser. I mean, I've seen that sometimes too. I had one case where I went to a ritual elder and I said, I don't judge that you're holding the leader body the leaders accountable for what they've done. And so, I'm just saying, I forgot how I put it, but, I have a lot of friends who are ritual elders, and I'm going to have a conversation about how I see you showing up so far related to something going on in the leader body. So I kind of put them on notice that I thought that things were going wrong, and they were just kind of going along with whatever the leader body was doing.
Yeah. So that's I'm saying the projection that we hold to the leaders of either they're the bad parents and we finally got our power back and we're going to keep those fuckers in line. They're not going to hurt me anymore. I mean, that's the inner piece. They're not going to hurt some staff member, but it's really about me. Or I want their love and approval. Those are the danger pieces. And there's no question. I think some of us, including myself, I could have been a rabbi or a priest or a shaman. I'd love to, be at the podium and hear myself talk. And I once kept guys out in the snow for 15 minutes on some Sunday morning circle, and finally got elbowed in the ribs by another elder saying they're going to hate you. Their feet are getting numb. Shut up. So, and I know ritual elders who really are impressed with themselves, And that's a dance, and they're well known in the project, and a leader who's willing, a leader knows what they're getting into if they invite certain of us into that role, because I've seen that. And
well, the same thing on the leader body. There's leader bodies who are so humble leaders, and that's a minority. And then there's some that are so incredibly, and they are. I mean, I don't want to name names, but there's a couple men come to mind where they are just phenomenal leaders, but you're always gonna know it because they're gonna tell you it, and they want,
yeah. And they'll fill up all the space, and that's hard for the as a ritual elder, I've had to sometimes work with the CLCs and even some co-leads if the leader was sort of taking up all the space in the room. So sometimes it's with the staff, sometimes it's with rookies who are freaked out, and sometimes it may even be being there for someone who's a CLC and feels they're not being seen. But we have the same thing. We want to be seen, we want to serve. It's not about us; it's about the process. But it's been a wonderful gift for me in my life. And for me, it's the bridge between my spiritual practice that I do outside of the weekend, and that I found a portal to bring at least some of it into this work. And so I feel it's part of my service. So it's great. So,
Question.
all right, John, other thoughts, Sid?
Question here. Yeah. Since I only staffed the one time and my memory is kind of soft on it, but I don't remember as a staff member being told, if you're triggered, go to an elder. If you're, that they were there to serve us. I mean, I was triggered really big time at one point.
Right.
I went to the other staff, rank and file staff guys, process me, dude, I can't go on. And,
well, a good elder team will, on Thursday night we'll stress that the elder team is prepared to help, and we know that rookies or first or second time staff people will be triggered over the course of the weekend, and we're here. So that should have been made clearer. That's one of the things we do, but we're not exclusive. Obviously, if you had somebody you're comfortable with, thank goodness they were there.
The same thing with the guts carpet, that it's important that it's communicated, that the elders are there for the staff people that are triggered on the carpet.
Yeah.
So this kind of relates to a question I have. It's kind of how permeable the boundary is between the elder team and the rest of the staff. So I'm assuming that if you are on an elder team on the weekend, you're not serving other roles. Like,
oh no, you're serving
doesn't seem
multiple.
like it would be appropriate for an elder to be a bandit, for example. So that you're.
Well, it doesn't get you a pass from being a bandit or anything else. No.
Okay.
In an ideal world, maybe, but the reality is, and particularly the next couple of weekends where
Right.
where we're limited in numbers, everybody's going to be working. And no, the elder team is there. It just basically means you're stepping beyond your assigned role to
Okay.
hold something.
I'd say there's very few things. Now, I know a number of elders do not process. I know Stephen is good at processing on the guts carpet. And at the same time, there is a discussion about elder energy and holding it versus, and in some ways, one argument is that there is an elder on every carpet holding that energy. So this other elder who's excellent at processing can step in. And then the other question is, if you're really holding the energy for the whole weekend, is it about being seen going out in the carpets? You have to figure it out for yourself of what's going on for you.
Yeah, that's an issue for me. There's no question, because and part of that in my own maturity is over time beginning to say, I can whisper something energetically, if I see something and trust that it'll be put to use, because I'm good at it, I'm really good, but I don't have to facilitate and have all the transference of the man loving me for the next, 48 hours.
So it seems like, part of what elders do is shadow watch.
Big piece.
And it's hard to watch for shadow if you're in the middle of the process. Mm-hmm. That you can't be from the outside looking in when you're inside doing it.
That's the dance, yeah, and that's partly why we created at least some of the roles. And as Dave said, if you're, the ritual elder should not be facilitating the time. One or two times I've been able to do it was where there was two ritual elders, and I was clearly the secondary guy on the weekend, and then it was like, hey, can I play this role? But I've done it a couple of times, and in retrospect, I shouldn't have.
I think there's a bigger thing of being available to listen and bless people. And that's a bigger issue all weekend long. Mm-hmm. So ideally, you're not so overloaded that you don't have any time. But at the same time, we sometimes, with too few people, we do load up a lot of people with a lot of different things to do. So. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I see we're at 8:30, coming right up. Thank you very, very much for coming in, and I hope you gained a little more insight on what we do as elders and ritual elders on a weekend. And again, putting the advertisement in for Saturday, you'll. If you want to join our Elder Cafe, there'll be some of the original guys talking about the evolution of it and what's happening sort of on a national level. I'm looking forward to staffing again, and as many of you want to staff as elders, talk to me, when the time comes. Blessings, John. I don't know if you have a closing.
Well, to thank you for your gifts of service, for your wisdom, for sharing you and all of that with us tonight. Bless you. Thank you all for coming. Today, when I was driving, I saw some of the most outrageous driving behaviors I have ever seen in my life. So if you're on the road, there are a lot of knuckleheads out there. Be safe.
Oh.
Thank you all.
Any of them elders.
All right.